I'm finally getting around to installing the overhead door in the workshop, and I'm using used panels. They're 16 feet wide, and my opening is 12 feet wide, just a little bit under 12 feet, because I got to match the corrugation or the ribs on the metal end wall. So it works out to about 141 3/4, I think, 141 1/2. So my opening is 141 1/2, so I'm going to want to make my panel just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to cut my panel to 142, and that'll give it a 1/4 inch either way, so I can clamp it and then install my railing. And so I got to cut down the panel. So I made my mark where I got to cut it, and I already did a test cut on the end just to see what I was dealing with. And for your standard commercial door, so for the longer doors, you know, just same on both sides. I don't want to flip it over, but it's got the same corrugation on both sides. This is the door you find standard in larger openings in a commercial setting, I guess. This other one I got here, this is what you'll find on your typical garage door. I think up to about 12 feet wide, maybe a little bit more. So when you look at the end of this door here, it's got a wood insert in it. So that's just a block of wood on the end of the panel. And that's this thing right here. So this was on the end of the door. I went and I cut the steel around and gave it a cut down the center. That's where that mark came from. And then pried the metal off there. And then there's my insert. So that'll go in there. When I cut the door down, I'll have to dig out the foam. And to dig out the foam, you can use any kind of rotary tool or oscillating tool. It makes pretty quick work of it. And the foam that's in the door is all closed cell, rigid foam. So it's very hard stuff, which gives the door its rigidity and strength. Well, combine that with the steel skin on it. So originally when I went to go cut it, I just used my skill saw with a bimetal blade on it. And I went to go cut it, and made it through the first part here, which was this here. So it's got a steel plate in it. And I guess that'd be for, I don't know, maybe if you have a wider hinge. Right here like that, underneath the aluminum skin. Then we had the other one. That one was right here like that. So probably the best bet is if you want to use a skill saw, you can get a 7-inch disc, like a grinding disc or a cut-off disc to go on the skill saw, and you can make your mark and cut it off that way. It looks like that metal plate doesn't go all the way through. I cut about 1.5 feet off of each end, and the metal plate is nowhere to be seen, so that's good news. They must only have the metal plate on the end for mounting sensors and what have you. Wherever the wood is, you'll have backing, but you go past the wood, you won't have backing. So if you need to mount a sensor or an attachment for the lock, yeah, that's what that's for. That's where you screw in your lock for the door. Yeah, I had that wrong. Okay. So this steel plate is where you this steel plate is where you fasten your lock. So you know, you screw it on there, and then you just have the slider that pops into the track. Yeah, that's why there's a plate there. So this steel plate is for your lock, and this one is probably for the I don't know, the reflector or something to do with the infrared system when the door comes down. Yeah, so that's cool. So if you're cutting your door down and you need backing further in the door, then I guess you'll have to slide that plate in there. You could get a blade from a Sawzall, like a 6-inch blade or something if you need backing farther, and just go in there with the blade and just shave out some foam. So go with your blade on your Sawzall, and the same sort of concept, just farther in. You just throw your blade in there and just go back and forth until you dig out all the foam. And then you could dab some glue on your metal plate, shove that in there, make sure it's far enough in, and then you put your wood block in there. If you have the standard locks on the door, which is a good idea. So yeah, that's what that metal plate is for. It's for the lock. And then after I get all the foam dug out with my crevicing tool, aka router or knife or chisel or what have you, then I will get my can of spray foam or just foam. This foam will work. It's not the same density as the foam inside the door. This stuff is very dense. Same stuff they use in refrigerator paneling. Just a very tough stuff. So this stuff won't be as dense as that, but it's not. It doesn't have to be. The foam is not gonna glue this board in. It's just to fill the cavity so you don't have a cold spot on your door. So if you dig out extra foam, don't worry. Just spray that stuff in there. Tap your end board on, and then as it expands, it'll fill up the gaps. So when this end board is in the door panel, it's got staples. So when it went into the door, the manufacturer just shoved a staple in there. Just on the top, yeah, it'd be right there. So he stapled it there, and he stapled it here on the underside. Staple there. The staples are, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch staples. If you don't have a staple gun, then you could always just use some nails. These ones are panel nails. They're not galvanized or anything like that, so they will rust. These staples I don't think were galvanized either. And it's not like it's going to see a whole lot of moisture. The edge of the door will be on the inside of the building, so you don't have to worry about it being exposed to the elements. You have that vinyl weather stripping on the outside that sits on the side of the door and seals it up from the outside. So the very end of the door isn't going to see any kind of weather. Just make sure it's within, 3/4 from the edge. So don't go more than 3/4 in from the edge of the panel when you put your nail in, and then it won't see any moisture. So that's how to shorten that one. There's not really that much to it. You just cut it off and then get your board to wedge back in there. On this other one here, I'm not resizing this panel, but if you ever do go buy some garage door panels and your application is smaller than what the panel is, and you need to resize the panel, these ones are probably the easiest ones to resize. They're not the strongest ones. They're pretty flimsy. They're the thinnest. And this is what you see on your average garage these days. But they are the easiest to cut down and reuse. So on the end, so same construction. So it's a aluminum sheathing or aluminum skin filled with closed cell high density foam. And then the only difference between this one and the larger paneling is I don't believe this one has the metal plates in it, nor does it have the wood blocking on the end. So how this one is constructed, it just has these metal caps on the end with a dab of glue there. So they're just glued on. They're just glued on, and when the screw goes in, it keeps the cap in place even more so. So, need a block. So to get that off, once you have all your screws off, make sure your screws are out or it's never going to come off. And then you just get a block of wood and a hammer and tap it off. It probably won't come off that easy, but once you get it off, it'll come off easy, depending on how much glue they put in there. So this one just has a metal cap on the end. And yeah, there's no metal plate on the top, no metal plate on the bottom. It just looks like they gave it an extra fold with the aluminum, so your screw has more to bite with. Yeah, the aluminum's just been folded over once more. So these are probably the easiest ones to modify. So you just pick what length or what width you want to cut it at, make your marks, and then cut it off. Take a look at your door, like this one here. This one here has a design on the outside. So if you're going to resize your door, don't just cut it from one side. Make sure you cut the same amount from both sides so your design in the center lines up, or design, or your stamping, your decorative stamping lines up. So say if I want to cut this one down and I need to cut it down 8 inches, well, I'd cut 4 inches off either side. And then I'd have the same gap at the edge of the stamping there and the same gap at the edge of the stamping here. And that's pretty much it to resizing your door panels. Yeah, as things get more expensive, it's a great alternative to buy used panels as long as they're not too beat up. This one's the top, so I'm thinking it's going to be above that header anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. And the price of a new door is a big incentive to use these old panels. So that's what I'm going to do.